March 23, 1945, 9:00 p.m., the west bank of the Rhine River, Wessel. You're a German paratrooper dug into a concrete bunker overlooking the widest river in Western Europe. For months, you've been told this water is Germany's last shield, too deep, too fast, too killing cold for any army to cross without bridging equipment your 88mm guns will shred into scrap metal. You've registered every likely pontoon site, zeroed the ranges, stacked ammunition. Tonight, 4,000 Allied artillery pieces open fire at once, turning the night into a strobing hell of orange and white, and you think, here it comes, the bridges, the choke points, the kill zones we've prepared for. But then over the thunder and the shellfire, you hear something else. Engines, dozens of them, not tanks, not boats. Something driving into the river. And 20 minutes later, American riflemen are already 100 yards inland, setting up mortars, rolling out telephone wire, moving like they never got wet at all. No bridge, no boats stuck in the current, just trucks that swim. You didn't even know that was possible. By sunrise, the Rhine isn't a fortress anymore. It's a highway. By March 1945, the Third Reich is a dying animal, clawing at anything that might buy it one more week. The Ruhr is encircled. The Saar has fallen. Army Group B is shattered. But Heinrich Himmler, Albert Speer, and every desperate general left in the Wehrmacht keep repeating the same liturgy: hold the Rhine. It's not just a river. It's 1,200 feet of black, fast-moving water between the Allies and the German heartland. The current runs 6 knots in places, strong enough to flip assault boats, drown engineers, scatter entire battalions downstream into machine gun fire. The east bank is a killing field, open floodplain backed by dikes, bunkers, and interlocking fields of fire. If you try to bridge it, you expose engineers under floodlights while mortars walk across the pontoons. If you try to boat across, you're silhouetted against reflected moonlight, paddling into pre-sighted arcs of grazing fire. General Alfred Schlemm knows this. His first parachute army, what's left of it, has spent weeks preparing the Rhine's eastern shore. Fallschirmjäger veterans, under strength but experienced man observation posts with night glasses and flare guns. Every bridge approach is ranged. Every beach exit has a bunker or a revetted 75 impact gun watching it. Schlemm's not an idiot. He knows he can't stop Montgomery's 21st Army Group. But he can make them bleed for every yard, slow them down long enough for what? Wunderwaffen, a political settlement. Schlemm doesn't say it out loud, but he knows. All he's buying is time for civilians to flee east and for the regime to pretend there's still a front line. On the Allied side, Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery has been planning Operation Plunder for weeks with the methodical thoroughness of a man who lost too many soldiers at Arnhem and won't make that mistake again. He's massed 30 divisions, accumulated 37,000 tons of ammunition, assembled more than 3,000 artillery pieces, soon to grow to 4,000, and created a logistical machine so vast it makes Overlord look like a reconnaissance in force. Eisenhower has given him the green light. Churchill is watching. The world is watching. But Monty has a secret the Germans haven't planned for. He's not going to bridge the Rhine in the way they expect. He's going to drive across it, and the Wehrmacht won't realize what's happening until entire battalions are already inland, digging in, calling for fire support, and waving more ducks forward like it's a beach landing in the Pacific. Because that's exactly what it is. The duck, pronounced duck, because GIs will nickname anything, doesn't look like it belongs in Europe. It looks like it belongs in a fever dream drawn by an engineer who got bored during an island-hopping campaign and asked, what if a truck could swim? It's a GMC 2.5-ton 6x6 cargo truck fused with a boat hull, 31 feet long, powered by a 6-cylinder engine. It has a propeller in the rear and can paddle through water at 6 mph, then crawl out onto a beach or a riverbank, lock into 6-wheel drive, and rumble inland at 50 mph on roads. It can carry 25 combat-loaded infantrymen, or 5,000 pounds of ammunition, or a 105 howitzer. It doesn't need a dock. It doesn't need a ramp, it just goes. The Duck was born in 1942, designed by yacht engineer Rod Stevens and rushed into production by General Motors. The name comes from the company's model code, D 1942, U utility, K all-wheel drive, W dual rear axles. By 1943, it's ferrying Marines ashore at Tarawa. By 1944, it's hauling supplies across the English Channel after D-Day. Eisenhower will later call it one of the 4 machines that won the war, alongside the C-47, the Jeep, and the bulldozer. But in March 1945, the average German soldier has never seen one. They've read intelligence briefs about amphibious lorries used in the Pacific, but those reports are filed under irrelevant. No major rivers in the Pacific Island campaigns require contested crossings under artillery. The Fallschirmjäger along the Rhine are expecting pontoon bridges, Bailey spans, storm boats, maybe some Churchill engineer tanks. Not a convoy of 2.5-ton trucks that paddle across a river and keep driving like the Rhine is a roadway with a slightly inconvenient speed bump. Montgomery plans to use more than 500 ducks at Wessel, supplemented by American-built Buffalo LVTs, landing vehicle tracked, the same armored amphibians that carried Marines into Saipan and Peleliu. The Buffaloes are even tougher, fully tracked, armored against small arms, able to carry 30 men or 8,000 pounds of cargo. Together, the ducks and Buffaloes will turn the Rhine from an obstacle into a supply route while the battle is still happening. Schlemm's intelligence officers never saw it coming. And that oversight is about to cost Germany its last natural defensive line in the West. 9:00 p.m., March 23, 1945. The bombardment begins. 4,000 guns, British 25-pounders, American 155 Long Toms, 8-inch howitzers, 240 Black Dragons, all open fire at once. The sound isn't a roar. It's a physical force, a continuous rolling thunder that rattles teeth and empties lungs. For miles along the Rhine, the eastern shore erupts in a curtain of fire and steel, high explosive, white phosphorus, smoke rounds painting the river valley in a choking gray fog. Every German bunker, every trench line, every suspected observation post gets hammered again and again and again. In his command bunker near Bislik, General Schlemm grips the edge of a map table as the walls shudder. Dust sifts from the ceiling. A radio operator shouts into a handset, trying to reach forward units, but half the telephone lines are already cut by shellfire. Schlemm knows what's coming. The bombardment is the overture. Soon, the river crossings will begin, and his men will have to hold long enough to identify where the main effort is, call in what little artillery support they have left, and try to turn the floodplain into a killing ground. But Montgomery isn't giving him time to adjust. By 10:00 p.m., the first wave is already in the water. British commandos in storm boats paddle into the current near Wessel, hugging the south bank to avoid the worst of the German searchlights. American engineers from the 30th and 79th Infantry Divisions push off from wooded assembly areas, oars biting into the Rhine's black water, every man knowing that the far shore could light up with tracer fire at any second. Some boats make it. Some don't, capsized by the current, shredded by MG-42 bursts that walk across the water in lazy, lethal arcs. And then the ducks roll in. At first, the German defenders don't understand what they're seeing. Engines revving, splashes, then nothing. No boats stuck in the middle of the river. No engineers frantically trying to anchor pontoons under fire. Just ripples, and then, 10 minutes later, rifle fire from positions that shouldn't have troops yet. A Fallschirmjäger company commander near Bislik radios back to division. They're already across. I don't know how. No bridges. Repeat, no bridges. Because the ducks didn't stop at the waterline. They paddled through the smoke and the current, propellers churning, and then their wheels touched the eastern slope and they simply climbed out, water streaming off their hulls, riflemen jumping down into the mud with Garans and bars and moving inland before German mortar teams could even register the target. Within an hour, entire platoons are ashore. Bangalore torpedoes blow gaps in wire obstacles. Engineers mark lanes through minefields with white tape. More ducks follow, each one carrying ammo crates, medical supplies, radio sets, 60 mortars. The Buffaloes come next, slower, heavier, armored, grinding over the riverbank with their tracks throwing mud and their .50 cal machine guns hammering German positions that try to reorganize. By midnight, the Rhine crossing isn't a battle, it's a logistics operation, and the Germans are fighting a defensive plan designed for a battle that never happened. 10:00 a.m., March 24, 1945. The German defenders at Wesel have spent the night fighting a nightmare. The river didn't stop the Allies. The bunkers didn't stop them. Every time a Fallschirmjäger squad tries to counterattack, they run into more troops, fresh platoons with full ammo loads, supported by jeeps and anti-tank guns that somehow crossed a river without a bridge. Radio discipline is breaking down. Units are scattered. Officers are dead or out of contact. And then they hear the planes. 1,700 C-47 Skytrains and gliders, stretching across the sky in formation so dense they blot out the sun. The air vibrates with the sound of Wright cyclone engines. Inside the transports, American and British paratroopers stand on shaking floors, checking static lines, trying not to think about the flak they're about to fly through. This is Operation Varsity, the largest single-day airborne operation in history. The U.S. 17th Airborne Division and the British 6th Airborne Division, 16,000 men total, dropping directly onto the battlefield to seize the Diersforter walled forest and cut off German reinforcements before they can hit the Rhine bridgehead. Unlike Arnhem, this won't be a bridge too far. Unlike Normandy, they're not scattered across hedgerows in the dark. Varsity is a daylight drop, time to hit after ground forces have already secured a foothold, turning the airborne into an exploitation force instead of a forlorn hope. But it's still a drop into a war zone. At 1,000 feet, the flak starts. German 20 and 37 guns throw up walls of steel. C-47s shudder and yaw as shells punch through wings and fuselages. Paratroopers stand in the door, watching tracers float up like lazy fireflies, knowing some of those rounds have their names on them. Green light. Go, go, go. They jump into a sky full of smoke and fire and silk canopies blooming like flowers over a battlefield that's already chaos. Staff Sergeant Charles Pennington, 507th Parachute Infantry, lands hard in a plowed field and immediately starts taking rifle fire from a tree line 200 yards out. He cuts his harness, grabs his Thompson and sprints for a drainage ditch where 3 other troopers are already returning fire. Within 5 minutes, they've suppressed the German position. Within 10, they're moving toward their objective, a road junction that leads straight into the Diersforter wall. All over the drop zone, the same scene repeats. British gliders crash land in fields and spill out Bren guns, PIATs, and entire platoons already organized and moving. American paratroopers rally on orange smoke grenades and push toward German artillery positions that are still trying to shell the Rhine crossings. Fallschirmjäger units, elite troops, the best Germany has left, fight back hard, but they're outnumbered, outgunned, and now trapped between the airborne above them and the river assault below them. By nightfall on March 24th, the airborne has linked up with ground forces. The Diersforter walled is in Allied hands. The bridgehead is 7 miles deep. And the Rhine is no longer a barrier. It's a highway. Ducks and buffaloes shuttle back and forth like ferries, bringing up tanks, fuel trucks, artillery batteries, entire battalions. German resistance is collapsing not because they lack courage, but because they're fighting a kind of war they didn't prepare for, a war where rivers don't matter and the sky rains soldiers directly onto your flanks. Schlemm's 1st Parachute Army begins withdrawing east, abandoning positions, trying to regroup, trying to delay the inevitable. But the inevitable is already here. By March 26, 1945, the Rhine crossings at Wesel have become the textbook case for modern combined arms warfare. Amphibious vehicles, airborne drops, massed artillery, tactical air support, all synchronized into a single, overwhelming blow that shattered German defenses not through attrition, but through disorientation. The Wehrmacht expected a battle. They got a stampede. The ducks and buffaloes move more than 30,000 tons of supplies across the Rhine in the first 48 hours. Engineers throw up pontoon bridges once the far shore is secure, but by then the amphibious trucks have already done the heavy lifting. Entire divisions roll east. The British 6th Guards Tank Brigade crosses on March 25th. American armored units punch through scattered resistance and drive toward the Ruhr. By the end of March, more than 1 million Allied troops are across the Rhine, and Germany's industrial heartland is encircled. For the Fallschirmjäger who survived Wesel, the crossing was a revelation and a humiliation. They'd been told the Rhine was uncrossable without bridges. They'd been told their defensive plan was sound. But nobody told them the Allies had trucks that could swim. Nobody told them an entire airborne corps would drop behind them in broad daylight. Nobody told them the war was already over, and all that was left was the dying. Staff Sergeant Pennington, the American paratrooper who landed in the plowed field, later wrote in a letter home, "We thought the jump would be the hard part. Turns out the hard part was keeping up with the guys who drove across the river. By the time we linked up, they already had hot coffee and a forward CP. Never seen anything like it." General Schlemm, captured by British forces in early April, was asked by his interrogators what surprised him most about Operation Plunder. His answer was blunt: the speed. We expected a battle. We got an invasion. And by the time we understood what you were doing, you were already 10 kilometers inland. The Rhine, the river that was supposed to buy Germany weeks, maybe months, fell in a single night. Not because the Allies had more men or more guns, though they did, but because they had ducks, amphibious trucks that turned a natural fortress into a logistics problem, a machine so unglamorous, so unlikely, that German intelligence never took it seriously. And that oversight cost the Third Reich its last defensible line in the West. By April, the war in Europe has weeks left. The Red Army is closing on Berlin. American and British forces are racing across central Germany. The Rhine crossing at Wesel doesn't end the war, but it ends any pretense that Germany can hold out. The river was supposed to be a shield. Instead, it became a highway. And the trucks that swam across it, they just kept driving.